Here comes Tim Kennedy into the studio.
Hey, man.
What's going on, man?
How you doing? How are you?
How are you, man? Sit down.
Take a seat.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. The new book is available today. Scars and Stripes, an unapologetically American story of fighting the Taliban, UFC warriors, and myself. That's some serious opponents.
Yeah, the last one's the dumbest for sure.
You think so?
Yeah, no doubt. There's no doubt.
Yourself, you mean?
Yeah, that's the dumb one.
Yeah, I've done a lot of dumb shit too, and sometimes you look back, you're like, why did I do that?
I don't know.
Do you regret it, or do you like, hey, I'm happy I can write about it?
Well, I'm not happy I did it because I could write about it. I was really happy about all the failures and struggles, and that's kind of what the book is about. My first wrestling tournament I ever went to, I got obliterated, humiliated, pinned in like a matter of seconds at a little gymnasium in a podunk town by a nobody wrestler, and it just looked silly. This is not the 2022 where everybody got a participation trophy for, everybody, like the two guys didn't get their hands raised. Like I stood there like a loser, my dad in this gymnasium looking at me. And that just burned so it was like acid through my soul. And those were the things that, if you talk to any of my coaches at Jackson, Winklejohn, any of my training partners, like this guy is relentless in his training. And it was because of losing and having had to feel the sting of shame and, having Jacare's hand be raised as I stood there, not called world champion. We went to Afghanistan together during the fall of Afghanistan, like peak fall of Afghanistan. We're on a plane.
Like recently?
Yeah. Oh, like in August.
Yeah.
We were two of the 12 idiots that were like middle-aged men, running around Afghanistan evacuating people.
Were you evacuating people who had helped Americans, or were
That's
they
right.
American? Oh,
yeah.
So we were going for mostly terrorists.
No, I mean we're
not. That was not. We're not.
We're gonna get some of you guys over here.
Let me clarify. That's not right. I'm saying were they Americans or just kind of guys Afghans who had helped Americans?
No.
Americans, SIVs.
But this is like peak. Like this is people trying to jump onto the outside of airplanes.
That time.
That's wild.
They're leaving and we're landing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What motivated? Did you just know that was happening? Let's go over there. Did somebody say?
I don't know where. Again, back to information.
Yeah.
Where people were getting curated information, and they're like, "Man, I don't think the Taliban's going to be able to take over Afghanistan." And all of us are like, bro, the moment you leave, they will take that base. Like the moment you even give them an inkling that you're going to leave, they're going to go take that base. And that's exactly what happened. So base by base, inch by inch, as American forces started moving back into just Kabul, ultimately just became H-Kaya Airport. That's the only place that American forces were. The rest of the country was just overrun by Taliban. We knew that was immediately. Yeah. So we knew that was going to happen. And one of our friends, Chad Robichaux, his former translator, Aziz, was already getting death threats of hey, we're going to kill you. We're not going to kill you. We're going to leave you alive, and we're going to do terrible things to your family, especially your wife, and then we're going to kill you. And
his best friend had just been killed.
Yeah.
Aziz, who his contemporary that had essentially had the same job, had just been hunted and killed, and now they were looking for Aziz.
So we were two founders that stood up this organization called Save Our Allies, and we moved 12,000 people in 10 days.
Did you guys have help from the government, or did you guys kind of have to go around circumvent?
We had, that's a really complex question.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I don't want to get in trouble.
I'll answer it. I'll answer that carefully.
Okay.
We have a mutual friend that grew up with the Crown Prince of UAE. And we asked if we could launch our operation from UAE, and the government of UAE said, we're going to give you one C-17, which is way more than we expected.
It's pretty rad.
We thought we were going to be using commercial planes, and if you can get anybody out safely, we'll give you another one.
Oh.
And that
was their mistake.
So
and there were only how many of you were there?
So there's 4 guys on the ground, and
that's crazy.
And there was a total of 12 people between UAE, Washington D.C., and in Afghanistan.
Wow.
How do you guys find people? If there's somebody who's hiding from the Taliban or they're worried about being killed, how do you guys A, know about them, and B, know where to go and grab them and coordinate?
Who do you work for? I'm going to tell you this. These are
No.
There's literally tradecraft.
Yeah,
Like there's a really clear process. This bona fides of us being like a far recognition signal and near recognition signal. Then they have to give us a whole bunch of digital documents that then we confirm in person. And their name has to be cross-referenced off a terrorist hit list. We have to make sure that they actually have a Department of State, SIV, P1, green card, American, like
bunch of stuff. Yeah,
wild. All the things that we had to do before we put somebody on a bus, and then had to smuggle. I mean, we had to sneak them onto HKIA. We had to get past the Taliban checkpoints, and then we had to get them onto HKIA base, and then we had to get them onto our ramp, onto a plane, and then fly them out of that country. Then we lily pad operations. So we flew out of Afghanistan, and we'd go to somewhere else, Qatar, UAE, and then we would move them to the final destination. Just to like paint the picture, 100,000 people were moved out during the fall of Afghanistan, and we have moved 17,000 of them as a nonprofit.
So the 12 of you, that's almost 20%.
Yeah,
right?
A total of like the American government, the Australian, everybody on the planet, this organization, and there's really 4 of us now, and 12 at the time.
Yeah, we got very, very efficient with what we were doing. So day 1 was 26 people, and the last day was just over 2,000. And we thought we had a few more days.
Yeah, we thought when the bombing happened, and that changed everything.
Is that when we got to go?
Yeah. When we got back, when Nick was saying that we didn't, I've tried to kill him multiple times now. We just got back from Ukraine last week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know is that what you're in the? Are you trying to get people out of Ukraine? Or are you just trying to help them there? Or we don't need to talk about everything.
This is like first. We're on. Can we cuss on Sirius?
Sure.
Yeah. Fuck Russia.
Okay.
Yeah, and Putin can fuck off.
Okay, so you're not on the side of Putin on this one.
No.
Okay.
All right. Pretty anti-communist here. Yeah, as they're
right,
burning and turning cities into rubble and using as civilians as hostages and shields. It's the war crimes that the atrocities that they've already committed that you will never see the light, that will never see the light of day, that will never be talked about, like next door at Fox or here on Sirius, like so disgustingly deplorable that he should burn in hell in like the darkest depths of hell for forever.
Are you surprised too by the amount, like, because we politicize everything in our country, like everything is my side or your side, the amount of people that are almost just trashing Ukraine and defending Putin? You see it. I'm surprised by the amount of people in our public who is actually somewhat siding with Putin on this,
especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we, from masks to vaccines to Russia to like, it's always divided.
Yeah,
and it makes zero sense. I don't think it really is. I think it's the algorithms of social media that are so divisive, and like people are in echo chambers, and it feels like it's divided. But then when you actually just have conversations with people, like opposing political view type people, and you're like, oh, so we both don't like Putin because he's a murderer,
right?
Well, okay, cool. Like, we're on the opposite side of the aisle here, I guess. Okay, bump knuckles.
Yeah, nice. but then you'll talk to one person, and you're like, "Oh, you are Twitter." Okay, it takes one person who'll go, "No, it's Biden." You're like, all right, I got it.
Okay. Yeah. Take a breath. Your neck veins coming out, bro. Yeah, it's wild, man.
Is it? Is it sad for you? How do you feel when like you see what's going on in the Ukraine, right? And you see it firsthand, and you see how crazy it is, and then you come over and you're like, wait, nobody's talking about this anymore because they're all talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah,
for me, the super frustrating thing is, we just spent a bunch of time in Ukraine, quietly. The team that we have over there is made up. The leader of the team we have over there is one of the guys that was with us in Afghanistan. Absolute stud.
One of the brightest humans on the planet. And there's maybe only a few people on the planet that can do what he does, and he is doing it in multiple different theaters, hopping from Afghanistan. And then he beat Putin into Ukraine. He knew what was going to happen and was walking through the snow to make it into Ukraine through an illegal border crossing.
Wow.
Like, talk about gangster.
Yeah.
This dude is a freaking hero.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
So we're out there, and, we're seeing what's really happening. And we're doing work to bring... we've evacuated a number of people, to include, the folks that were killed or injured from Fox, and we're bringing logistics to places no one else can bring logistics to, whether it's food or fuel or whatever. And then we get home, and people are making comments on his social media or my social media, and we would correct them. So that's actually not what's happening. And they would just say, oh, you guys don't understand. Or like,
it's not on my social that we were in Ukraine. It's not on his,
Right.
And they're like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. It's like, cool. Neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
You've seen firsthand the stupidity of people's reaction when they think they know something you don't know.
It's ridiculous.
But there is no shining armor in the story. The Ukrainian government is corrupt. Zelensky is corrupt. Putin is an evil terrorist, and his army, as communists that are conscripted, don't have a choice. They'll be executed. Their families will be murdered if they don't do what he says. So there's not like a knight in shining armor in any of the story. But the true victim, like always, are the people, and the people whose homes are burnt and turned to rubble, and that are caught in the middle of this. And that's...
But just playing a little devil's advocate there, though. I mean, I think people could argue the same thing about our government.
Yeah.
I think you look at any group of people in power and there's corruption. But we're not storming across the border into Canada and murdering people.
Right.
And just straight murdering. It's not a war. It's they're executing people on the way out when they don't win.
Yeah. And
Wow.
by design, because they're
women and children.
trying to remove Ukraine.
Yeah.
So like in the ground that they've already taken over, they have instituted Russian curriculum already. Like, not propaganda. I mean, like, Ukraine no longer is a country. Here's Russian school books in all of the ground that they've taken. Every one of they're already, by a Hitler type approach, the storm across the border, kill every kind of resistance that you meet, and then start instituting this barrage of propaganda, which just
How
dilutes.
effective is the propaganda? Like,
It's very effective.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Do you think that they are surprised, though? They say it's not going the way Putin expected it to go. And this
No,
is
it's going
hu- this is
exactly
hu-
how they wanted it to go.
Do you think that he's not shocked by how long this is taking, or is that's just media saying that he's losing?
Oh, he's not losing.
He's not.
No. If they don't get help, it's a foregone conclusion that they're done.
What kind of help? Like military?
Like NATO help.
Yeah.
Just think about for a second. The new Russian border is going to be Finland, Poland. The new Russia goes all the way to Poland. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever think that was what?
Right.
That's right now.
Yeah.
What do you think it is too about like governments or whatever they want to call it, about like the Taliban, like the stupidity of them as the U.S. is leaving to be doing things like hunting these translators and like already pulling girls out of school? Like what? Like why don't you just let the U.S. leave and then do it? I was shocked by how fast they started being dicks. Like you almost.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know, but
You're
it
gonna
just
drop
seemed
a
like
bomb on?
Yeah,
like,
no.
We already did that for 20 years.
it just seemed like a bad strategy. Like you figured they would just go, all right, get out, and then
there's no consequence.
No, they wanted us to see it.
they did.
They wanted us to see it.
Like you just
They-
wasted all your time and
So,
want you to know.
so
They were
once-
twisting the knife every inch that we moved back.
Wow.
And I mean, like the stories that we personally saw.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. The ROE, the rules of engagement for the military, were that they could not go outside the wire. So they couldn't leave unless there was an American in harm's way. And so, our team had different rules because we basically were there doing whatever we wanted. So, Tim was running outside the wire constantly. But there were situations where, if the crowd got unruly, they would just dump an AK mag into the crowd and just kill people. And the U.S. government, the military, couldn't do anything.
Just had to stand there.
They just had to stand there and watch. There was another situation where, a woman that, a group was looking for, they were within arm's length, and the Taliban just
Got to her first.
just put her on the car and shot her in the head.
On their car. Like, put the girl on the
Right.
car, looked at them directly in the eyes, and executed this girl. And it was like, there's nothing you can do about it. This is my Afghanistan.
And what is the motive behind giving the military that type of a directive, saying you have to just stand here and watch this?
There was a period of time where when it's a military operation, you can go out and create a perimeter, and you can do whatever you need
And the
to
operation is
do.
called a NEO, non-combatant evacuation operation. And that is a military operation. And when a NEO takes place, there's some really clear things that happen. This was not a NEO.
So the State Department was given control of the operation, and as soon as the State Department is given control, they run everything like an embassy. So think about every movie you've ever seen where like someone's running to the embassy, and once they get in, they're safe. It's that kind of thought process.
So the
Where
airport,
it's like, we'll take responsibility of this little block of space that we have.
The airport became the embassy, and then everything outside of it was the host nation country.
I mean, it's literally like base when you're playing tag or whatever. Like, make it to base and you'll be fine.
Yeah, you don't lo siento mucho, man.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't it almost like sometimes it seems like it's like, well, if we just pretend it's not happening, it won't happen. Like, what was the embassy takeover? It was when Carter was president, and it was somewhere in the Middle East. There was an embassy takeover, and I think they weren't allowed to fire on the people attacking the embassy, and it's almost like this weird hope that if we just don't engage, it will stop and they'll go away on their own.
I mean, I have a different approach to all of that, like violence and strength and power. Like if they only knew what the Marines and those embassies could do, but they don't, because they know that their hands are tied. Just occasionally, just let them have a little reminder of what it looks like when you let that pit bull that's been starved in a cage and just wants to get in a fight all the time, gets out of the cage, and then tears something apart.
Just
and then
twist the knife in the other direction.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can twist the knife too.
Yeah, we can do this too, man. Do you want to see what these Marines can do? Like, these guys are studs.
Because it does, I guess, it makes us look weak, or I guess. Like, they said that one of the things that motivated bin Laden was seeing the troops pull out of, what was when Clinton pulled out those troops out of, I forget where they were, but there was a bunch got pulled out. They said they see a few American bodies, they pull all the troops out. And they said that kind of emboldened bin Laden.
Was Afghanistan, was that inevitable, or would there have been a way to get troops out?
Oh, there are really, I mean, like, you go back to like Sun Tzu era about how to withdraw troops, you've Dunkirk. There's lots of examples about how to move off of a withdrawal and how to remove yourself from occupying territory. Nowhere in any playbook is it like, do you know what we should do? Let's just give up every crucial strategic piece of land to the enemy while we're doing this. So the way that you do it is you keep strategic pieces of land while you fall back to efficient, effective places to move all of your forces out while you maintain these strategic positions, and then you collapse and fall out. Instead, it was just like, cool, peace out. Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
And, Ukraine's like the opposite of this, where ultimately the people are still screwed. So save our allies having to go to Ukraine. Like, we rinsed and repeated the same logistical process of Afghanistan, but instead of getting things out, we're also getting things in. And then Afghanistan was just getting people out, but it's kind of the same efficient logistics in reverse.
Now, as guys who get shit done, when you hear something like this Texas shooting and everyone's calling the cops cowards and they should have went in, what is your take on that? Like, do you think that they were just being afraid, or do you think that they were told not to go in and wanted to go in but weren't permitted to?
I have lots of thoughts on this. I've actually been spending almost nonstop every time that I haven't been working, writing about these active shooters. It's a combination. The police are what we made them. The police are the politically correct if we're going to call them cowards and how they behaved, that's what we forced them to become. Where we want them to not have the initiative, not to be, kicking in doors to go and do things. Is this hostage rescue? Is this an active shooter? We have two different policies. One for a hostage rescue, they're not allowed to go in unless we have specific people in place. If you go into a hostage rescue situation at the wrong time, the hostages will get executed.
Right.
So they thought this was a hostage rescue situation, so they started emplacing people, waiting for the right moment to go in. And if a trigger happens where the hostage taker starts executing hostages, then they immediately go in. Well, there was confusion in the way that the communication was happening. There was a system breakdown with the dispatch. All of this litany of excuses. But these are all responsive things. Like, we're talking like, we have to make our schools hard targets. Do we need to arm teachers? Do we need to train cops differently? Yes, yes, and yes. But we also need to go upstream to where the problem is, the origin of what is unhealthy about these young men that are going out and doing these shootings. What is this mental health crisis where these people are going, these young men are going and murdering children? Like, what has gone wrong with us culturally and as a society where this is now commonplace?
The book is out today. It's called Scars and Stripes. It's Tim Kennedy's story, and I mean, both of you guys are fascinating guys. And I think there's just so much to draw from just because of all the experiences that you've both had that most of us will
Yeah.
never come near. Thank God.
Our lives are very different. We could talk for about 6 hours, and we could each go, I've never done that. Very different existence.
Yeah. That's beautiful, though. I love being human, man. I love different experiences.
Yeah.
You can go to timkennedy.com to get the book and everything. Grab it. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
You got to get out of here.
Yeah, I know you guys
So,
have other press.
yeah. And
Thank you.
The
Thanks
rest
so
of
much
you,
for having us.
we'll see you tomorrow.
Goodbye.